Hey everybody, it's Jason, and we are heading out to Westchester, Pennsylvania to check out a pond that we installed years ago for Joe and Pam. One thing that's unique about their house is they have some of the most social fish I've ever seen. Let's go check it out. It's our goal to help people design, build, and maintain their outdoor living spaces. Keep building your outdoor dreams. Pam.
Hey Jason, how are you?
Great, how are you today?
I'm great, good to see you.
Thanks for having me out today.
Oh, no problem.
So I wanted to stop by. We are doing some videos that are helping people design their outdoor dreams. So I wanted to show them your yard.
Okay.
And I really appreciate you having us out.
I love to show people my yard.
So one of the neatest things, I like how natural everything looks. And when you're coming from the front, you really have no idea what's going to be back here. And where we're at right now, you still have no idea what's going to be back here. So always love that about here.
So this is my Astilbe garden. Lots of Astilbes in there and some Lenten roses and a red twig dogwood. My birdhouses, you'll see them throughout the yard. This one has babies in and they've been making a lot of noise lately. Joe built the grill and then made the arbor around it from old gazebo parts.
Oh, nice.
He bolted it together and we reused brick that we had used for our front walk and made that little place for him to stand as he cooks. So these steps Joe built 28 years ago, they're still workable. It brings us up to the main event.
Boom.
Our big pond. Yeah, if you remember, you guys put this in May of 2010. Took 5 days, 40 tons of rock, and we love it. We had gone on the pond tour in '09 and came back and said, we do a lot of things by ourselves, and Joe said, if you want me to build a pond like that, then you're mistaken. I can't do that. We'll have to call Jason. So we called Jason, and I told you what I wanted: the beach for the fish to come up and feed, a tunnel, nice waterfall, nice sound, and to fit in this space. So you came out that September, marked it out, and I lived with it all winter, like where it was going to be, and the rest is history. We've loved it. We've landscaped around it, sort of made this the focus of our backyard.
You've done an awesome job with the landscaping. I like how everything blends together. You can't tell where pond stops and starts and flower bed starts and stops, so it really looks very natural.
We sit out here most nights and have a glass of wine and enjoy ourselves, and we love to entertain, so people come by all the time. And I want to show you my before pond.
Your before pond?
Yeah.
Let's check out the before pond. It's still here, so it's
yes,
still a pond.
It's still a pond. But this little pond we got about 28 years ago. This was the first area of the yard that I started to landscape, and the pond shell itself was given to me, and this was it. I always wanted a bigger pond. So after we went on the pond tour in '09, we decided, okay, we'll get a bigger pond. And it was suggested, probably by you, that to get as big a one as you can fit in your space so that you don't at one bigger one 5 years down the road. And I think that's what we did. It fits well and looks very natural, I think.
It's a natural ecosystem pond. We work with Mother Nature and we use the aquatic plants, rocks, gravel, and fish, as well as a mechanical filter and a biological filter. So the bottom that you were talking about is the skimmer, and that's where the pump is housed. So that's what draws the water in. That pipe runs up to the top, and then at the top we have our biological filter. And the neat thing, one of the really neat things about your pond is you put that upgraded wetland in for a more natural look. And we did put the water into the bottom, but we also put it up at the higher level. And that was just so that we didn't pump that water through the wetland too fast, because if we pump it through too fast, it actually won't filter. And then as that water comes up very slowly through those aqua blocks into the different sized gravels, and that's where all your beneficial bacteria is growing. That's what breaks down all your organic matter from your fish, from your plants and everything. And then it spills over, re-oxygenates coming down the waterfalls and flows back into the pond. It's awesome, and I do think you have the friendliest fish.
I do. Would you like me to feed them?
Absolutely, let's check that out.
All right, let's see who's gonna come get something.
So Pam, the pond looks great, but there is so much more to your yard than just the pond. So why don't you show me everything else that's going on here?
Okay, let's go back to the fire pit.
These ferns are awesome.
Yeah, these are ostrich ferns, and I started out with, I think, 6 or 8 of them. Was in my first garden, and then they got too big for there, so I dug them out and let them go to it here. This is the fire pit area. Interesting story. The reason we started this fire pit was because we bid in the silent auction back in 2010 on a pallet of stones from one of the sponsors. So we got the pallet of stones, and Joe built the fire pit out of it. So the rest of these are like furniture that we got, sort of keeping it that vintage look.
Yep.
Our neighbor gave us this wonderful glider before they moved to North Carolina. We use this area a lot.
You guys do a really cool thing. What do you do with the neighborhood?
We have Fire Pit Fridays.
Fire Pit Fridays.
Where the neighbors all come over on Friday nights, and we have lights. I don't know if you can see them, but they're strung in the trees. And we have Coleman lanterns, and we send the kids back to the next area, the kids area. Adults sit around here, and my daughter a few years ago made this for me for Mother's Day. Welcome to our fire pit, where friends and marshmallows get toasted at the same time.
Oh, so cool. Tell me about the shed.
Oh, the shed. Joe and I built this back in 2012, I think. In here, I was a step ahead of the bulk trash guys to retrieve these wooden shelves from our next door neighbors who were throwing them out.
They're old shutters, right?
Yeah, they're old shutters.
That's a really cool idea.
Wooden shutters.
Yeah.
And then we went to the Habitat store, the home store, and got this old sink and the door, and Joe made a thing for it. It's a dry sink, obviously. We don't have water back here, but we do have a rain barrel out back, so that's how I get the water source. These windows came from a friend of ours when we put the word out that we needed old windows, and they just unlatch and you put them out with a stick. The windows up top were given to us from another friend who sent me, I had already said, yeah, we already have these windows, and she said, well, I have a couple windows you might want to use. And she sent me a picture of them, and I said, absolutely.
He's got a ton of detail. Everywhere you look, you got a wheelbarrow that's planted, compared to...
That was my dad's.
That was your dad's.
Yeah. So I said, sure, I'll take it. The tire's flat and everything, so we drilled some holes in the bottom and just made a planter out of it.
Planters can be so much more than just your traditional pots that you see.
In the spring, this really looks nice. A lot of spring flowering plants like azaleas and foam flowers and jack-in-the-pulpits and primroses and brunetta.
The landscaping looks great.
Thank you.
Tons of plants.
Tons of plants.
Tons of plants. So one of the major challenges that you had here that I remember from when the pond was installed is the amount of water that comes down off of this hill and down through here. And I like how you did this really neat riverbed to deal with that. So you have a dry riverbed that sometimes has water flowing through it, is that right?
Yes, it looks like a rushing river sometimes.
So we got there's a grate on the other side, comes through, and then it runs through the creek bed so that it doesn't wash out all of the mulch and all of the existing landscape. So, so many times and so many of the challenges that we run into is water and what we're gonna do with all these heavy rains, especially within the last few years.
It's been crazy. Yeah, the property slants from back there down, so it would just wash everything out.
So again, thank you very much for having us out and showing us around. Everything looks really, really good here.
Oh, thank you, Jason. I love showing my property. I'm an avid gardener, and I love to garden, but I love to share my gardens as well. So thank you for coming.
If you would like to start building your outdoor dreams today, contact Turpin Landscape Design Build.